Fue muy bien.
Sean todas y todos bienvenidos al segundo
Please
webinar.
be welcome to the second regional webinar on the framework over the achieve food systems transformation and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, I'd like to offer the floor to FAO's Deputy Representative for Latin America and the Caribbean, Mrs. Eve Crowley, to welcome us. You have the floor. Thank you, Andres, and a warm greeting to all of you. Today, in view of the very difficult situation that the region is going through and the whole world with a pandemic where we've seen where the most vulnerable have been even more affected, on a planet where the consequences of climate change are becoming more and more obvious, we're headed towards the Food Systems Summit as part of the Decade of Action in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, where the new actions needed to achieve sustainable development will emerge. Today, more than ever, we need a change. It is absolutely relevant to try to find the recovery from this crisis through a transformation that does need food systems in order not to leave anyone behind. We need sustainable and resilient food systems. We need to optimize environmental resources, and we need to lower their negative effect on the environment, and that can ensure an ongoing food supply over time. In order to achieve this, Food Systems Summit specifically addresses two action lines or action tracks, as Andres just mentioned. Number 3, which is about promoting nature-friendly production, and action track number 5, about building resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stresses. In this context, this event brings us together to exchange good and innovative practices on institutional and public policy matters, as well as experiences and productive solutions that can be implemented in the countries of the region to address the direct and indirect effects of climate on agricultural and aquaculture food systems. Besides sharing thoughts and innovative proposals to promote climate-resilient agriculture that leads to a recovery with transformation, and also to show the importance of a systemic approach and to identify synergies among the different sectors. In order to introduce a variety of perspectives, today we have a very diverse panel whom I'd like to welcome. Honorable Michael Paintard,
a very warm welcome, sir. Honorable Andre Perez, Minister of Blue Economy and Aviation of Belize. Welcome, Minister. And Senora Cecilia Jones,
Mrs. Cecilia Jones, co-chair of PLACA, representing the Ministry of Fishing and Agriculture of Uruguay, and Mr. Jesus Quintana, Managing Director for the Americas of the Alliance of Biodiversity International and CIAT. Additionally, I'd like to warmly welcome all the audience that is with us through the FAO platform, through YouTube and Twitter. Thank you, Mrs. Crowley. Now on with the event. During this webinar, we will address various issues related to the challenges that the planet faces in terms of climate change and agri-food systems, the measures that should be implemented to strengthen resilience in agriculture and fisheries production, and some successful stories of innovation in public policy and institutional arrangement to address climate challenges in agriculture and fisheries that are important to share, such as support from financial institutions to move towards a more climate resilient agriculture, promotion of circularity to achieve a climate resilient agriculture, and synergies among the different productive sectors to achieve a transformative recovery. In order to start this discussion, let's take a look from the point of view of science. And in order to do that, I'd like to offer the floor to Mr. Jesus Quintana, Managing Director of the Americas of the Alliance of Biodiversity International and the International Center for Tropical Agriculture. Thank you for your participation in our webinar, Mr. Quintana, and you have approximately 10 minutes to present. And 3 minutes before the end, I will let you know in order to keep within the agenda. Thank you very much, and you have the floor. Thank you, Andres. Thank you for the invitation. I'd like to greet the entire team at FAO, Julio Verdeguer, Eve Crowley. It's a pleasure to be with you again. And of course, I'd like to greet the two ministers from Belize and Bahamas and the representatives of all the countries and all the panel members and all the audience that is also connected with this very interesting discussion about sustainability, resilience, resilient food systems. This is my presentation. Okay. The idea is to deal with this very complex topic that has to do with how to address agriculture, rural development, food systems, such as focus right in the middle of this crisis, climate change, but also overlapping crises that make it even more complex. This happens at a time when we know that climate change is not only unstoppable, but everything that we have done so far is not enough. Climate change not only challenges ecosystems, urban and rural life, but production and the way in which we live, in which we feed ourselves and we coexist. Of course, with the pandemic, with the increasing crisis of economic inequalities, poverty, and environmental degradations, we believe that we have something to do, and we need to look at it in a different way. Production systems today, those of us who work on this, do not guarantee neither health, unfortunately, nor nutrition, nor food availability in all cases, but also they cause major environmental degradation, the loss of biodiversity, and many other negative externalities, and some positive as well. But there's still hunger in the region. COVID makes it even worse, but it is a reality. 50 million almost and growing. We still have deforestation, soil degradation, degradation of the fisheries. Glaciers are still melting. Ecosystems are becoming more arid. And we have all the succession of situations, obesity, loss of food or food waste, poor use of energy. What is the solution then? And in that sense, guided by United Nations, we are proposing a new way of looking at that production and that intervention in the rural space and also in the urban space in a healthier way, in a more sustainable way and resilient way, and even more socially inclusive. There are alternatives that deal with those food systems, looking at them in a holistic light, much more comprehensively, in an integrating way that may include the solution. It's not easy, but it may contain the solution. These are systems that can be much more sustainable, economically and environmentally, much more resilient to climate and other crises, but also that involve production, nutrition, health, and also involving the environment, which are topics that are of the utmost interest to us. And that means looking at agriculture, looking at that circular bioeconomy, which we recycle, we reuse, we use energy more and resources more sustainably. And it also, as it's been shown by this pandemic, it must be in a much more socially sustainable way. And that is happening in a time in which we also realize that we have a major opportunity thanks to this food summit. This is the year of agriculture. It is the first time in a long time the United Nations has invited to Food Systems Summit, and it is the time to make the best out of it, to remind ourselves what are the resources we need, what are the agreed upon action we need, what is the size of the challenges, and in the case of my position, the position that I occupy in my institution, what is the role of knowledge and science to address these solutions? There are several solutions, none of them, there's no silver bullet, but we do need to work by connecting different points from our positions. On the one, we need to think that of promoting environmentally friendly agriculture, financial, economic, and legal initiatives are involved. How can we improve value chains in the territories with a sustainable vision and a local vision? We need to build opportunities for the small ones and also for the large ones through policies that will favor more efficient systems and with better uses. We need to open up more markets. We need to improve productivity with what we have. We need to invest more on research, conservation, of germplasm and genotypes, and we need to do innovation. Challenges are still growing. Old solutions do not work anymore. And that resilience and that circularity in the production systems in agriculture and forestry and then livestock must operate. We are a partner to governments. We are a partner to all institutions, local, regional, national, supranational, global, private sector, NGOs, in order to change food systems, in order to protect the planet. And as the United Nations Secretary General and the President and our own CGR Council, we need to work collectively, but by working together, we will have a chance to achieve the SDGs. That's still a goal, and to improve the life of consumers and producers. In the few minutes that I'm left with, I'm hoping I'm not overstepping. We'll see some examples of what we can do, each one of us in our own space. We always work with this optics with other agencies such as Agro, FIDA, PMA, and with many governments and other funding institutions that allow us to promote more sustainable and resilient food systems. This is vital. We need data, we need knowledge, we need to generate that information, and there are many ways of doing it. It can be done in a lab. Scientists like us, but it can also be in the field, and to show communities, indigenous communities and producers, growers, women, young population, and also the large institutions and governments. And we do that with a proposal that is called TESAC, which are live laboratories involving all these sectors. And we connect that knowledge and we share that knowledge. It is a community effort for sustainable development. You have 3 more minutes. Something else?
Here we have these panels, these agro climate technical panels where we share information and publish information, and the scientists and public authorities, as well as producers, may take part in these panels. Here we require the support of partners, researchers, governments, funders. And with regard to capacity strengthening in Central America, we've been working with FIDA with a view to build capacity among local authorities with regard to climate smart agriculture, and we've conducted training as well. We also seek to foster technological development, for example, Agri, which is the FAO water use tool. This provides us with a good tool. We have the pest displace that also allows us to control pests and etc. And we also carry out productivity improvement actions and genetic diversity preservation. And we have a program called Seeds for the Future. Final remarks and conclusions. I know that I'm running out of time. Time is always of the essence. So in short, we need to boost the critical role of science and research. These are critical for facing the challenges. We also need more information. We need to share information. We need innovation and creative solutions as well. Of course, we need more resources, financial, technical, and human capital. And of course, we all need to work together. There will be an emphasis on providing support for public policy design to make sure they're more effective, to create, to build more capacity, and to have greater transparency and inclusivity. And information needs to flow upward and downward. We need to be the change we are trying to promote. We also have this transformative vision, which entails a holistic approach. Two key pillars, resilience and sustainability. That is our mantra. The world is committed to this, and so we all need to work together through partnerships and active participation, and this needs to be based on innovation, modernization, and science. So thank you very much, and as always, we are open to receiving your policy proposals. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Quintana, for your presentation and for sticking to the time constraints. It's important, the approach you show is key. You refer to the commitment of the scientific community to take on the challenges emerging in the food and agricultural sector, so thank you for that. Now, let us hear about a few institutional arrangements and public policy tools to address agriculture and fishing. I will give the floor to the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources of the Bahamas. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to have this opportunity to speak with you very briefly. Let me first begin by saying that the Bahamas resides in a wonderful location in the world. We're at the crossroads of east and west, north and south. And from a geopolitical position, it has been extremely advantageous to us being on the doorstep of the United States, but yet, in a sense, the gateway to an incredible region in the Caribbean and Latin America that is exceptionally productive in terms of agriculture, in terms of culture, and we have punched well above our weight in terms of our contribution to the global community, not just in terms of our cultural offering, what we have in terms of natural resources, but certainly in terms of the studies we have conducted and the intellectual strength of our collective people. What is also true about where we are located, however, is that we are in the hurricane alley in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And so each year there is significant anxiety about whether or not the billions of dollars of investment that's made in the country can in fact be upended, severely damaged or destroyed as a result of climatic events, which we have very little control over in many respects. And we recognize, however, that the kinds of things we do at the policy level can mitigate against some of the severe damages and also help us recover in the event that there are damages. And so for just a few moments, I'd like to talk a little bit about, as our previous speaker did, about the circular bioeconomy and how in the Bahamas we are seeking to work synergistically internally within the country, certainly within the region, and with some of our global partners in order to protect our food systems, to further develop the food system, and to ensure that in the event of damage, we are able to build back better. One of the things that we are seeking to do as a backdrop to all of our efforts is to dramatically increase the production of agricultural items, both non-food items, but especially food. Our food import bill, both in terms of fresh foods, fruits, vegetables, and proteins, as well as value-added foods or processed foods, is somewhere in the vicinity of $1 billion. And so it's absolutely important for us to ramp up production in order to ensure that persons have livable wages, we increase the wealth of our population, we address the issue of poverty, we bring into the mainstream in a very powerful way in our rural communities women who may have been disenfranchised and young people who are looking for opportunities to be contributors. If the agriculture sector is to be prepared for shocks that may occur as a result of climatic events or as a result of some of the changes that are happening globally in our environment, we believe that they must identify which types of productive systems not only work in their individual interest, but work in the interest of the community and the environment. And so we have been building capacity, engaging in courses, for example, that deal with smart agriculture, looking at aquaponics, hydroponic systems, the use of polytunnels, rather than using ornamental plants to decorate public spaces such as parks, etc., but that we look at planting fruits and fruit and vegetable trees. We've been looking at the synergy between various sectors that coexist, but somehow we haven't taken advantage of the benefits each can give to the other. So agroforestry is now not just a buzzword, but it is an umbrella under which a series of actions are being taken. And so we are looking at how can we utilize the coppice vegetation, and amidst the coppice vegetation that we have, it can be used for a variety of other reasons, including mulching, creating wood chip, finding raw material for or biomass that we can convert into any number of products, inclusive of fuel. How can we also plant or interplant fruits, vegetables, crops that would be very useful in terms of our diet? We are creating synergy, not just in terms of agroforestry, we're creating synergy between tourism and agriculture, sensitizing the population on the value of not just having adequate quantity of food, but the right types of food, and that we believe that our local population ought to be in charge of its own destiny. Therefore, we are interested in growing more of what we consume and what the 7 million tourists who were coming here prior to COVID, what they consume. And so the agro-tourism relationship is opening up tremendous opportunity whereby producers now can look at a larger pool that they can supply their products to. And from a policy standpoint, we have guaranteed market access by insisting that all agencies, whether it's cruise ships, hotels, food stores, restaurants, that they are mandated to source at least 40% of what they're selling, of their food that they sell to their clients, must come from local producers, and that the government, if it's to have the moral authority to mandate this in the private sector, must spend 75% of all of its funds that are spent on on food items. They must spend with local producers. This enables us to fund the infrastructural development, the creating the ecosystem required for us to be resilient, to put in place measures as well as new technologies that will allow us to mitigate against any climatic event. And so we believe that policymakers must be very intentional about the kinds of policies that they are putting in place that create market access, but also help producers to increase productions and overcome whatever challenges there might be that would disenable them from producing for the market that we have just guaranteed. So an additional constraint that we face or challenge we face as we look to create the circular economy is making sure that smallholder farmers and others have access to land and for the period of time that allows them to make investment with some guarantee of getting a return on those investments. So we are liberalizing the leasing of land to smallholder farmers, half acre, 1 acre, up to 5-10 acres, so that they are able to engage in productive systems. We are also working with financial institutions. Locally, the government, through its grant program, has made available each year $5 million in order to issue in grants funding that is required beyond the 50,000 limit per farmer or agribusiness person. Those farmers or agribusiness persons can access additional funding through credit facilities with other quasi-government agencies or private sector groups, some of whom will benefit from a guarantee by government. Because we can have the most incredible ideas, access to land, with good arable land, with good water supply, but in the absence of capital to fund some of the technologies required, the technologies such as new variety of seeds, new breed of livestock, various types of technologies, whether it is polytunnels, hydroponic systems, aquaponic systems, all of which we have been working with the private sector in, one, encouraging, two, government purchasing quite a bit itself and making available at either concessionary rates or for educational systems at no cost at all. And so putting in place a financing mechanism is important. Cabinet has also approved the establishment of both a green and a blue fund, where we will take at a minimum $1 million, put it aside to fund innovative and creative initiatives that will help us to become more resilient, to help us mitigate against disasters. And so an entrepreneur might very well decide that they're developing apps that can help us better communicate within the market, share relevant information for investors, for producers, for buyers, for students. Or they may have an interest in sourcing or developing sensors that can assist us so that remotely we can check the water content of the soil. We can set up portable weather stations to determine weather conditions for our farms, or to set up sophisticated irrigation systems. And so we want to fund innovation. And the unfortunate thing about having a massive food bill is the
Honorable Minister, you have 2 minutes more.
Is that notwithstanding all the money we've made historically from tourism and financial services, we have run the risk of seeing much of that wealth be depleted by going out of the country to purchase much of what we consume. The beauty, however, in changing our fortunes by growing more locally is we're able to keep additional resources in country to further develop the infrastructure, the ecosystem that can be transformative for the lives of Bahamians, not just in urban centers where we would encourage things like recycling, encourage creating symbiotic relationships with persons who, on one hand, are getting rid of waste, and others who can take that waste and convert it into something else. And this is precisely why, for example, in the farming community, working along not just with FAO, but with IECA, we have found that developing, for example, workshops that help people develop, or agribusiness persons develop biodigesters so we can create methane from waste products, or develop fertilizers as another byproduct of that process, that we will be, in essence, working firmly within that circular economy and making sure we reduce wastage, the misuse of resources, and that we are benefiting from one resource in multiple ways. We have introduced a number of innovative policies as it relates to banning single-use plastic, working with non-governmental agencies in a symbiotic relationship rather than policymakers responding in a defensive manner to activists. We benefit from their advice. We benefit from co-funding studies that allow us to make evidence-based decisions, and so that we're able to say to fishers that that here is what the science is telling us about the scarcity of particular marine species. And while we're concerned about your livelihood, we are certainly concerned about future prospects for you and your children and grandchildren, and therefore we must pivot in terms of how we manage each particular marine species. And so working symbiotically with non-governmental organizations that in other jurisdictions may be activists, we wish to work and have done I think a commendable job in working symbiotically. But we also recognize that persons must be able to feed their families. And so having the point of view of the practitioners, and in the case of the blue economy, the fishers, in the case of agriculture, the farmers, having their opinion on how conservation and preservation, how this adversely affects their livelihood. We have those discussions so we could come to a shared understanding about the science and the tightrope we must walk between development and preservation for sustainability in our country. And so we're making progress. We're not there yet. We have a ways to go. But being in forums such as this, benefiting from best practices in other jurisdictions, countries who are more mature in some of the subsectors. So, for example, we are gleaning tremendous understanding from what other countries are doing in the space of aquaculture. We understand that more than 50% of marine products in general, but certainly scaled fish in particular, that's consumed, are coming from fish farming rather than from the ocean. And so we believe we have an opportunity to create tremendous employment and wealth for a new generation of fishers who will do it in a technologically very much different way. And so again, aquaponics is extremely important for us in the Bahamas. We are now implementing those systems in the school, in the school agriculture and the Ministry of Education working symbiotically. And the beauty of this is you have agriculture and fisheries working in partnership with each other. In the process, what are we doing? We are saving scarce resources in terms of the use of water. We are mitigating against the potential for disease infestation. So biosecurity is very much important, which is another one of those benefits of the circular economy, just making sure that we're able to behave in a very responsible way, a very safe way, so that we don't adversely affect human health, but we're also concerned about plant health, animal health. And so we're seeking to put in place systems that take into consideration really the value of all life, whether it's plants, whether it's animal, whether it's human, and that if we make fundamental errors in terms of the kind of regulatory system we put in place, the kind of surveillance regime we put in place, then we would find that unfortunately we do damage to our economies. And so in this regard, the government is working very closely with international agencies in strengthening sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Just today, I had an opportunity to speak at CASPA. They're engaged in a symposium today to look at how we can put in place a wonderful regime throughout the Caribbean that protects us as we seek to export and do business with each other in the region. We wish to do so in a very safe way, but in a way that can augur well for all of us, that we can help build wealth across various jurisdictions. And so today it's really a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to hearing the innovative ideas various countries are engaged in, whether in agroforestry and agro-tourism, looking at fisheries and aquaculture, looking at other kinds of productive systems, whether it is recycling or the use of biomass and its conversion into other products that would be useful to us. We look forward to hearing about all of these things and seeing how we might adapt some of these best practices to our local situation. We have a global challenge, and while my focus is primarily on how we might strengthen this archipelago that God has blessed us with in the Bahamas, we know that our success nationally is inextricably locked to the kinds of works we do regionally and globally. And so with those few words, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity for us to be included, and to say we recognize that the work that all of us are doing is a matter of life and death. And I'm glad that we are so committed that we're going to choose life every time.
Thank you very much for your intervention, Honorable Minister Pintar. Thank you for sharing specific actions about how to tackle actions and how to tackle challenges for adapting and transforming agribusiness in the future. Ahora compartiremos otras visiones desde el punto de vista de
Now we will share some other visions from the institutional context. I'd like to offer the floor to Honorable Andre Perez, Ministry of Blue Economy and Aviation of Belize. Minister, you have the floor. You have approximately 8 minutes, and 2 minutes before the end, I will let you know. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andres.
I will allow me to speak in English, although I was listening keenly in Spanish. Of course, I'd like to acknowledge all the panelists that are here today, and I would like to recognize as well Minister Michael Pintard from the Bahamas, and Ms. Maria Unduraga from the Ministry of Agriculture in Chile, and of course, Ms. Cecilia Jones from the Presidencia de Placa, and of course, also, just want to be, it's good to be here, and I just want to share with you about Belize and then how we started off in creating this first brand new ministry called the Ministry of the Blue Economy. In fact, we are ranked as the second nation in the Caribbean to create that ministry. And basically what is happening is our tiny nation of just over under 500,000 population, we recognize that there are many different components that contribute to our economy. And primarily, our economy has been mostly driven by agriculture and tourism. And enters this new ministry that has been in existence, really, which is our marine resources. And we're talking about our aquatic spaces, or blue spaces, or blue capital, if you want to call it that way. That our new administration, just for your information, that we just had a change of government last year, November, and it's a brand new administration. And immediately by our Prime Minister, Honorable John Briceño, we all recognize of the vast potential that the ministry that the agriculture sector has, as well as the tourism sector and the blue economy sector in terms of the fisheries and our aquatic spatial that exists out there. We saw the need to separate these two entities, which was at the time agriculture and marine resources being pooled together in one ministry. But because of recognizing the potential of the marine resources, they decided fit to create this brand new ministry called the Blue Economy. And as such, that does not mean that it's separated, but what we work together. It's important that we collaborate together, which is the Ministry of Agriculture as well as the Ministry of the Blue Economy. And so what we are seeing right now, and I'm happy to report to you that this year we have been blessed. We have had a bounty of production. And in fact, yesterday at the cabinet meeting, our Minister of Agriculture reported that we had a bounty of crop production enough for it to be export. And similarly, as our colleague, Honorable Michael Pintard mentioned, that the strategic location of the Bahamas in between what the Atlantic and facing at the doorstep is at the neighbors of the United States of America, as well as the Caribbean and Europe as well. We too share that in common. That Belize is nestled at the west of the Caribbean, and we are members of CARICOM, but we recognize as well the great potential we have in the form of trade that we have with Central America. So we are exploring in that way how we can increase our exports via agriculture as well as the blue economy in terms of our marine resources and what we do as we export what is conch, lobster, finfish. But to do this, it is important. I'd like to use the information that Senor Jesus Quintana shared, is that we need to equip ourselves with data. information is so vital. And our nation is fairly young, and we're moving forward, but we recognize that if we are going to be involved in getting more involved with the region, it is important that we engage in data collection. And that is what the blue economy, the ministry now is engaged. As I will share with you that our deep waters, we are actively engaging in seeking out a project or a program to quantify what is it that we have in deep sea fishing. We know it is of high value. It is largely not much untapped. We have basically been engaging in just in tourism and what is the reef fishing. Just for your information, Belize actually, we have that title, and we hold it with great pride as Belizeans that we are nestled and we are blessed with the largest barrier reef in the Western Hemisphere. And to that effect, we are also proud to boast that Belize hosts the largest living barrier reef in the world, because, you know, climate change is something very, very serious. It is affecting our waters, it is affecting our reef. Already we are seeing some issues of coral bleaching. So we must find ways how to mitigate. We must find ways how to build and deal with climate change. We have to be resilient. So for us to do these projects, to more have, it is important that we talk about data collection. And that is what we have embarked on ambitious different plans with the Ministry of Blue Economy. We also want to talk that our products that we export, what is conch, what is lobster, crab, all the different fish. This is not, we must understand first that this resource that we have at our hands, it is not infinite. We must give it the value. We must start to give it value added, that we also talk about that if you are buying a pound of lobster from Belize, we must engage at the edge of high value, that it is coming from the largest barrier reef in the entire Western Hemisphere. So we are engaging in active marketing to create that seal of what we call the seal of the blue economy. So my ministry, we are engaging, equipping ourselves with good consultants, good environmental engineers, and we have already created what is called a multi-sectorial group called the Blue Economic Cluster. It involves private sector, it involves NGOs, of course, public sector, it involves the government involved, and all different people coming into place to pull in their ideas and their resources. And also, as this new ministry, we have created also a policy and planning unit that will assist us and guide us in implementing new ideas as how to harness what is our blue spaces, what is our blue capital, that must be given value. And that in itself is fairly new here with us. It is also very much bountiful, but we must give value now. We have to move away carefully from people who want to come here and invest and says, we will buy as much lobster that you have. We want to buy as much conch that you have. Everyone is reaching out to us. The value for these is very high, but everyone thinks that this is infinite. From the blue economy, we recognize that this is not infinite. It is very much limited. So you must give value and actually not only depend on what the fishers deliver to our ports, but rather that we can do value added in processing plants, in setting up, because we do not have value added as yet. And that is something very new for us, but we are actively engaging by our ministry to bring in this type of investment that gives us value added in our products right now. And as much as I can speak about the blue economy and our marine resources, I am very limited to speak on what is agriculture. As my colleague, Honorable Jose Mai, he is the Minister of Agriculture. But we do share our data collection, and we are all having so much in common that every time we meet in cabinet, we share with these things. And that is why I'm happy to report that this year, our seasonal crop production has been very much bountiful in terms of agriculture. We know that there exists a market, very lucrative market as it relates to Central America. Equipped with our data, we know that Central America is always a country that cannot feed the region that cannot sustain itself in terms of agriculture. In fact, when we go to our neighbors, which is Guatemala, a population of over 17 million people, it's simply in the terms of corn products that they consume, they have to import. They are looking at us for us to produce corn and to export. So we will be taking advantage of these things. But the most important thing, and we bring in this discussion, is that we do it in a way that is sustainable, that our lands as well is very much limited, and that we must reach to the point that we get the highest yields from our lands and using it in a way that is the highest yield, using the right fertilizers, the right herbicides and insecticides, all of these things that are used that are environmentally friendly. These are things that are incentives that our government is very much looking at to provide incentives to our farmers, that we must be looking into organic production as well. We are also looking in what is the hydroponics, aquaponics, all of these things, mariculture, agriculture. These are all things that is in its early development stages, and we are all part of what is the blue economy. It encompasses. We're actively engaging that. So, for the last 8 months, as your minister of the blue economy, we have hit the ground running, and recognizing that both we are actually at the gateway of what leads us to Central America, as well as the gateway.
Honorable Ministro, le quedan 2 minutos.
Thank you very much. With that, in closing, we are very much excited. We're happy to join this summit here, and the most important thing is that we are eager to learn. We are eager to embrace more information, to share our data, and how we can grow our markets in a very sustainable way. So, with that said, I want to say thank you very much for having me here, and I'm open to questions later on, and do my very best to share what our beautiful country Belize has to offer. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Honorable Ministro Pérez.
Thank you for that, Honorable Minister Perez. Now, the message that I hear loud and clear from your presentation is that it's necessary to have data for decision making, in addition to the need to foster technological innovation in the agribusiness sector, and above all, the importance of working together with the private sector. So thank you once again for your remarks. Now, let us hear about the operational side. I would like to invite Madam Cecilia Jones, co-chair of PLACA, representing Uruguay, and the coordinator of the Sustainability and Climate Change Unit of the Agriculture Programming and Policy Office of the Ministry of Livestock, Agriculture, and Fisheries of Uruguay. Madam Jones, the floor is yours, and you have 8 minutes for your presentation. When you have 2 minutes left, I will let you know. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share our messages together with this honorable panel. Now, several times we have heard that it's necessary to work together, in addition to the need for solutions that are suitable for our region, solutions to global problems. Climate change is a global issue, in addition to food security as well. And this is what the Food Systems Summit is trying to address. Now, fostering resilience involves local solutions, and working together is one of the keys to success. Let me refer to the Climate Action Platform for Agriculture in Latin America and the Caribbean. I have co-chaired this platform. I am actually still co-chairing this platform with the government of Chile. They actually set up the platform during the Conference of Parties number 25, and we have been working together since then. We have been working on rolling out this platform. Now, the platform was created with a view to foster and boost collaboration between countries and to boost existing initiatives, multi-actor platforms, partnerships, regional institutions and partnerships, and international ones as well. And the purpose of this collaboration was to implement mitigation and adaptation measures that, of course, are customized to fit regional and national contexts. All of this is related to climate change and the climate variability in our region. Now, as far as the livestock and agricultural sector is concerned, it really depends on the countries and it depends on the scope of these sectors. In Uruguay, for example, the Ministry of Agriculture is the Minister of Livestock, Fisheries, and Agriculture. But in other countries, the institutional arrangements are different, of course, and each country has its own unique context. So this inter-country collaboration has always been designed to include social, environmental, and economic aspects and seeks to work in conjunction with the UN Climate Change Convention, the 2030 Agenda, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, and the Diversity Convention, as well as the conventions to fight against desertification and drought. So we are aligned with all of these aspects and the other actions already underway by the countries. Now, we have been working for 1 year. There are 10 countries that are members of the platform. Bahamas is one of our members, in fact, in addition to Argentina, Brazil, Chile actually convened this and as co-chair, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Peru, Mexico, Dominican Republic, and Uruguay. And I am here on behalf of Uruguay. Now, I know that there are some Latin American countries and Caribbean countries. You can see that. We also have some partner associations working closely with us. Luke, for example, GAXA, the World Bank Group, WMO, CIGAR, and Conservation International. So the platform has been designed to such an extent that it's not just there for the countries, but to involve the other organizations working in these fields. So we have theme-based working groups. There are 4 of these. The membership is quite varied, obviously based on the interest of the individual countries. We also have a working group on adaptation and mitigation, another working group that focuses on public policy. The third one focuses on knowledge transfer and good practices. And the fourth group works on research and development, technological innovation. Now, the members of these group come from sundry fields, from the field of academics or public, private sector, etc. Each of these groups work on what we've been referring to today. They are there to first determine the needs and gaps, the state of art. They gather documentation, and we actually have a repository of material. And capacity building is key as well. That's at the heart of what we do. We are here to be a community of practitioners so that we can share our experiences, and each group has a capacity building plan as well. And of course, we are always focusing on agricultural vulnerability and creating adaptive capacity for agriculture and other aspects related to climate change, adaptation, and mitigation. So the platform will be holding its assembly in the upcoming weeks, where we will update the schedule, the working program for the next year. And of course, we would like to welcome other countries to join this platform and to join the community of practitioners, where we are always trying to foster the exchange of experiences. So I am available if you have any questions. And once again, this is an official invitation to anyone wishing to join the platform.
Muchísimas gracias, señora Jones.
Thank you for that, Ms. Jones, for your interesting presentation and for referring to the key areas of action of PLACA and some key information on the working groups. Now, I would also like to thank each and every one of the individuals who have joined us today. We unfortunately do not have time for Q&A. Live dynamic Q&A, but we are jotting down all the various questions that we receive through different media outlets, and we will answer these in due time. I would like to thank each and every one of these speakers for joining us and taking part in this regional webinar within the scope of the Food Summit. And this has been streamed live on the FAO website. Be sure to visit the FAO Americas website where you can find additional publications related to this seminar and the Food Systems Summit. Thank you so much. You will also find a link to this video. And once again, on behalf of the organizers, thank you for joining us and have an excellent afternoon, and we will see you soon. Take care.
Ciao. Ciao a todos.